as it says up here on the board, you're going to want to pull out page 22 in your packet. For those of you without a packet or not reflecting page 22, it's informative speaking and selecting your topic. That was the handout that you can follow along with today. The other handout that I want you to be able to look at is the informative speech description, which is on page 6 of your packet, but you may know it better as being on the flip side of your evaluation sheet from your picture speech. So if you pull that picture speech back out and look at the information on the back, you'll be able to see that reflected, I believe. Yes? Yes, okay, great. How this lecture will go today, I'm going to describe to you what the informative speech is. This handout here will have a list of details, requirements that you must have in your speech. It's also going to lay out some other elements that you're going to need to include that we haven't gone over yet, but we will over the course of the next 2 weeks. So if a term or something doesn't make sense, you can always ask, but we will go over everything that's on the sheet to make sure that you're fully prepared. After we go over what the informative speech description is, today we're going to come up with how to organize your topic for this speech. Not only how to choose a topic and narrow it, but how to create a central idea and a thesis statement that is appropriate for an informative speech. This central idea and thesis statement is going to be the assignment that you have for homework that is listed on your syllabus. This is your informative speech topic approval. It's worth 30 points for doing it and doing it correctly. Much like a math class, you don't get points if it's not done correctly. You have to get the right answer, right, to get the points. So in this class, although you will have the opportunity to correct your work, you must do it correctly in order to earn the credit. And that's why it's important that today we ask as many questions as possible to ensure that you are understanding exactly how to organize your ideas. Additionally, where can you double check to make sure your topic and thesis are correct before you post your assignment? Here it comes again, this crazy idea that I can help you. I know it's like this big concept that we're still so confused on, but who's here to help you? Oh my goodness, so you could?
Email.
Just email it to me and say, Amanda, is this in correct format? Does this look right? Any adjustments that I should make before I post it? Go. So easy, right? Then you make sure you get your points. And it's not scary. I will be nice to you when you do this. Yeah.
So all we have to do is write the central idea and the thesis of what we're...
No. At the bottom of page 22, you will see your assignment. So we will go over exactly what you have to do. Also, Rachel, if we look to the board here, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through a couple of things. On your e-companion, if none of you know how to work with the discussion board, it's okay. That's what this is all about. You're going to log into your e-companion, and you're going to go to informative speech topic approval. So since that is what this assignment is. You're going to click on the tab below, informative speech topic approval, when you are ready. But as it says here, it says, hi class, on the following page you will respond to my post with your informative speech topic. Please post by the designated date on the syllabus, and remember to check back with or for changes by the date on the syllabus to receive full credit. This is the structure that you are going to be listing for me. But if you click on the actual discussion board, which is right here, this is what you are going to click on. And it says, hi class, to post, please click on add topic, which will be up here. Okay, there'll be a little box that says add topic. You'll click on that. I think it's either up here or down here in your thing, but it's either going to be down here or up here. It doesn't say it on mine because I wrote it. You get it. Make your class time and your name the title of your subject line. So the subject line should be your class name and time. And then in the message box, please write the following. So what I would do is I would just click this, cut it, paste it into your post, and then fill in the blanks. Does that make sense to you all? Okay, great. When is this due? Oh, I don't know. Let's go ahead and take a look right over here at the board, or the syllabus. Okay, this is tomorrow by noon. You want to post your topic. After I have gone through and replied to everybody's topic, you will get an email from me. That email will say, go back in, check your topic, make sure that there are no corrections to make, or see my comments there. Many of you will have the words, this is great, perfect, awesome. If you get any of those words, you know you don't have to do anything. I will be very clear in my communication if I say something like, you need to correct this and post again. If you do have a correction to make, do not create a new thread. Simply go back into your old one and reply to my comment to you that says that you need to make a correction. So everything will happen in the discussion board. You'll see your original post. You'll see mine that either says awesome, and then you call it a day, or you'll see my post that says you need to make a correction. Then you hit reply and simply respond to that with your correction. Is that clear? Don't create a new thread. Does anybody have questions about that? All right, great. Let's look at this page 6 then, and let's go over what this informative speech description is. A speech of information is designed to allow the audience to get more information or knowledge about a topic that most of them either don't have, or they may need more of, or perchance they need to be reminded about. Okay? Informative speeches are going to teach us about something. They're going to teach us about a topic in a mature, worthwhile way. And so what do I mean by a mature, worthwhile way? What's mature? Well, all of us are in what? College. Absolutely. We're in college. We're professionals who are out working in the world. We are all over 18, yes? Are we? That means we're also considered adults, okay? These topics should be mature, serving an adult population, and it says worthwhile of time. What does that mean?
Interest.
Okay, interesting to who?
Your audience.
Does it always have to be interesting right away to them? Can we find ways to make any topic interesting? Yes, absolutely. What I also mean by worthy of your time is that you've done the work and that you've created a topic that is going to, by the end of that speech, give them something that they can go out and know that will benefit them in some way, shape, or form, even if it's contributing to a conversation on the street, even if it's informing them about their next destination. Sorry, that's true. No, I'm okay. Okay. Even if it's encouraging them to, or they're better informed about a class to take that can help them in their future, we can find a way to appeal to our audience, to make it interesting to them, to show them how this is going to apply to their life. And we'll do that over the course of creating your introduction. So all of your topics, just ensure that they are done with like a mature idea in mind. I have seen anything from talking to me about a betta fish, which many people would think, what? Really? Is that worthy of my time? Absolutely it is. And the way that we construct it and we make it worthwhile can be to, an imperative concept that we all need to know about, a chance of religion. So I've seen 1,000,001 different things. The idea that we want to go with is just keeping it mature, keeping it on track, and keeping the focus of your audience and their interest, and need at hand. Please be audience-centered. So remember, audience-centered, meaning keeping the audience at the foremost of our mind throughout all parts of the speech-making process. The speech-making process doesn't begin when you get up here. Instead, it begins when you come up with your topic. When we decide on a topic, our job is to start thinking, how is this going to be most effectively received by my audience? And that starts with your topic, and then it starts into your organization. Our audience receives messages about different topics in different ways, and we can be the most effective depending on what topic we choose, if we choose the correct pattern of organizing it. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. In this assignment, as it says in paragraph 2, you are expected to follow a particular pattern of organization. That pattern is listed as chronological, spatial, or topical. And we will talk about what those patterns mean today. Particular emphasis should be placed on choosing a variety of supporting materials that will clarify your subject and hold the interest of your particular audience. Who's your audience? This classroom. Clarifying your subject with supporting materials, we talked about that with visual aids, right? Clarifying means make clear what I'm talking about. And we'll talk about supporting materials next week when we go over the different varieties and uses of supporting materials. You are going to need to conduct research on this topic. Research. Don't worry, we're going to go over how to do this as well. Find out what's new, what's fresh, what's exciting in your topic, and what's going on with the scholarship that surrounds it. When you are using internet sources, you must make sure that they are credible and reliable. We are going to go through an activity called Radar, and you are going to have an assignment that you have to turn in based on that radar and some internet sources, but ensuring that these internet sources are worthwhile. Anybody can put up information on the good old internet. Is that information all true? No. Is that information all checked and fact-checked? No. We have to make sure that what you are presenting to an audience is true. We remember this in ethics, that if we present wrong or improper information to our audience, we are then presenting them with false ideas that they could potentially share with another individual, who gets shared with another individual, gets shared with another individual, and then who ends up the victim of your words? Everyone, right? So not only this class, but if you go and share that idea with somebody else, it can literally ruin an individual as well as ruin an entire city, an entire culture, an entire population. We know how language holds with it a great deal of power. And with that power, we have to have some type of responsibility. That's right, Spider-Man. You do. With great power comes great responsibility. And it is important that you are responsible in your research. So sources can be anything from books, these crazy things that you go to the library and you open if you want to. There's also ebooks that you can do. Magazines, journals, newspaper articles. You can also conduct interviews. You can look at documentaries. You can cite a YouTube channel or a video in that way. If you are ever confused at what constitutes reliable and scholarly and credible sources, come talk to me about it, and we can go through what your options in detail. Research also is going to have to be cited in your speech out loud. We'll talk about that. In your outline, and in a works cited page. Have any of you ever used a works cited page in your life? By show of hands? Okay, so we only have a couple in here who maybe don't know how to do the works cited page, and we'll go over that a little bit when we do our research as well. You are going to need to take 3 outside sources. Who's the primary source of this? You. People will always say, Amanda, can I be a source? Yeah, you already are. You wrote it. So good for you. But now we need to find 3 outside sources. So that means a book, a magazine, a journal, a newspaper, an internet site, etc. You're going to go through this. You're going to find maybe an example that they use, cut it, use it in your presentation. You're going to find a statistic from somewhere. You're going to cut it, you're going to use it in your presentation. We utilize research in our presentations to, 1, build the quality of our work, to show that it has been researched, that it's been done, that it's truthful. And this information that I'm giving you is well beyond the scope of my own opinion or my own ideas or my own view and understanding. But additionally, it will help to build a little something we call credibility. And we'll talk credibility as we get into your introductions, but for an individual, one way to build your persuasive ability, and although this isn't a persuasive speech, we are persuading the audience that we are experts in the information that we are telling you, and thus I can build my own credibility by utilizing sources. Because when I say those sources out loud to an audience, what does my audience start to think? Oh, look, I'm spotting off all these sources. Oh, look, she did her research. She knows what she's talking about. She's done the work, right? And in turn, that starts to build your credibility with the audience. Going down to paragraph 5, you're expected to follow all the basic principles of effective delivery, meaning using effective hand gestures. Our body is working for us. We're walking to and from a visual aid effectively and making eye contact with the audience. I am not reading my speech. Absolutely. We are eliminating as much as we can our vocalized pauses, so, like, and, etc. This informative speech is also going to require you to have at least one visual aid to develop and to serve as a supporting material to the content that you're presenting us. My encouragement to you is that as you start to do your research, you look for visual aids that can help you along the way. Because if you wait till the last minute to try to figure out, what am I going to use, we know that that can go awry and that you may not be able to find anything. But if you're looking for supporting material already, and another source has used a photograph, an image, a graph, a chart to help explain and describe, well then I would keep that to the side and maybe use it. Sound good? Anybody have any questions about this? This is going to require an outline. We're finally getting into the idea of outlines. So this speech, as well as the persuasive speech, will be required to have an outline, and we'll go over how to do that next week as well. Any other questions? How long is the speech? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Yes?
So this is basically like a mini research paper?
No. Because research paper, you go out and you buy, definition, like research, like are you going to conduct something, or are you going to do an experiment and then tell us your conclusions on it? No. I want you to think of this much more like a mini news spot. Yeah, like a mini story. But a mini news spot may be more effective. Or like a mini lecture. Good. Like you were kind of going to come up here for 7 minutes and teach us about something new.
Yeah.
Like, today you're going to teach audience analysis. Or today you're going to teach what it means to be audience-centered. You have 5 minutes. Go. So you'll break it down to a couple things, give us an activity, call it a day, right? Same idea. So don't feel like you need to go out and this isn't you discovering new ideas and putting together a focus group and doing all that stuff. You don't have to have titles and headings and footnotes. Anybody else have a question? Excellent question. All right, good. Also, we outline, right? No papers. No papers. Outline. We'll get into that, don't worry. I just don't want you to have to write a paper. Don't think of it like writing a paper. That seems so super daunting, right? Yeah, let's write an outline. Make it easy on it. Essentially. The way we think about it makes it easier. Anybody else have any questions? No, that will be next. I don't know on the syllabus. I think it's Thursday. There's a lecture online if you would like to watch how to outline. You can always watch it on my YouTube channel in advance, but you can also wait.
Okay, so when you talk about resources, did you mean like you can use yourself like 2 websites, or do you want to use like
Yourself, you're the primary source. You need 3 in addition to that.
Okay.
3 websites, sure.
What if you want to do a little topic that you did in your past class where you took
Hmm.
Can I look up examples with my book and my kids? Those are sources.
A book, yes.
But like magazines.
Magazines, newspapers.
That one is used. I already
Okay. Yes. So, what are you asking me?
can I use my notes, or would I consider it a source?
The notes, no, because it's your work again.
So I'll have to get the book.
Yes.
Notes I got from.
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll talk about how to go about doing this. Typically, all right, back in the day, and we'll talk about this when it comes to supporting materials. When I was in grad school, and there wasn't use of this crazy thing called the internet, we had to go to like the library, look up books in a card catalog. And my topic didn't have a lot of research on it that I studied in graduate school. It did have a lot of books, but my library didn't carry those books. Many of you are going to be like, Amanda, I can't find a scholastic journal about Beyonce. No, you probably can't, and no, it probably wouldn't even be good for this speech. Sure, you can find a website, and her own official website is probably going to be the best one with credible information from her. But another way that I did this was I called it the Cheap Girl's Guide to Research. I would cruise on into Barnes & Noble, and then I would pull the books that I wanted, and then I would open them up, and then I would take the citations that I wanted out of it, like a quote, and write it down, and then I'd close the book, and then I'd put it back on the shelf, and then I'd leave. Does that make sense? Get crazy, right? There's a ton of sources out there that don't have to be through the library or through journals. You can find extra information somewhere. So go to the college bookstore, open up that book, take a picture of it, close it, and then leave.
I did, you know.
Sneaky. Go right.
So we have to turn in the e-companion tomorrow and the outline. It's like the only paper we have to turn in. We don't have to turn in like a final draft or anything.
No, it'll be due the day that you speak the outline.
Okay.
So you basically
Hold on one second. Did I answer? Sure.
So we have basically a month to prepare.
Yeah, Mom. Get going. Ready? Yeah. You'll have a month to do this one and pretty much 3.5, 4 weeks to do the next one. So as soon as you end this one, start going with the next one if you can. Let's look at, anybody else have any questions? All great questions. Okay. Let's look at today for the purpose of this. Don't start to think ahead. Don't get all caught up in like, oh my gosh, I have to research and I have to write an outline. All we're going to do today is organize your topic. Let's come up with a topic first, right? Take a breath. Let's come up with a topic. Sound good? As it says here, informative speaking requires that you organize your main points in a specific pattern. This pattern is going to depend on one thing, your topic. If you have a specific topic, which all of you will have a topic, each of your topics are going to need to be organized. Your main points will need to be organized in a different way. Depending on that topic, it's going to dictate to you whether you are going to use chronological, spatial, or topical organization. We are going to go over the different categories of topics today, and then we'll talk about which ones fit into which organizational patterns. So if you were talking about an animal, and if somebody is talking about Italy. These are two different topics. They fall under two different categories. One is a place, one of them is an object. You would never organize those main points the same because it wouldn't make sense to the topic and the way that the audience is used to obtaining information. Does that make sense to everybody? Awesome. So let's get started then, and let's go on to this next part. Sorry, paragraph 2 on page 92. When picking your speech topic, I talked to you about this before, it is essential that you pick something that you are passionate about. When you're excited about a topic, who else is excited about it? Yeah. Yes, absolutely, right? Have you ever been in a class where you weren't interested in the material, but the teacher and the way that they talked about it made it exciting? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And that's where it comes to life. And that's where it starts to get exciting. That when your audience is excited about the material that you're presenting, it's usually because the speaker themselves is projecting that. And that's why I say pick a topic you already know a lot about. Something that you're interested in. Even something that you could take from this class and utilize in your future. So is there a topic that is discipline related or job related or personally related that you're like, I am so passionate about this, I will eventually talk about it again, and so why wouldn't I practice doing that now? The other thing is that you want to pick something that you already, I encourage you to pick something that you know a lot about. Make it easy on yourself. You have a week. We can all talk about something for 5 minutes, probably that we know about already, whether that be like a sports hero to us or an artist that we already know or we've done a little bit of research on. And so when we know about someone, it makes it easier for us and more exciting for us to do the research as well, right? When you're excited about it, you're like, oh, I totally want to get in there and be a part of that. The class is about organization and delivery. It's not about coming up with the most extravagant and amazing topic in the whole entire universe. So talk about something that you already know about, make that easy on yourself, and learn how to organize it and talk about it with a sense of purpose. Topics for informative speeches can fall into 5 different categories. So let us look at these 5 different categories that I've written over here on the board, as well as where they are on your paper. So they can fall, and I'm going to give you suggestions and examples from former classes that will fall into these categories as soon as I find out in my pocket. There we go. Where am I? Got it. We have 5 different categories that your speech can fall into. It can be person, place, object, event, or concept. I talked to you a bit about this on Tuesday. The only speech that we do not do in this class, but also can be considered or categorized as an informative speech, is the process speech. If you have the words how to in your thesis statement, you know you have a process speech. How to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. How to ask someone out on a date. How to change a flat tire. How to register for classes. These are informative speeches. They are also, however, process speeches. And we're not going to do those because they typically do not hit the level of maturity that we're looking at for this class. Also, there's a ton of visual aids that are usually required, and those happen to be a little bit time consuming. So we don't do the process speech. Yeah? I can always teach you how to make a how-to into a non-how-to, if you would like. That being said, let's go over these categories. So person, this can be a persons, or a group of people, or a team, or perchance. Yes, that would be how we can look at it. So you can talk about an individual person. You can talk about an artist that you love. You can talk about a dancer, a singer, a band that you are passionate about. You can talk about a political figure or an activist, either here in a different country. You can talk about a figure from history who has contributed to society that you're fascinated by. You can talk about a leader of social movements if you would like to. You can talk about a particular team if you are a fan of sports, or you can talk about a sports hero, an individual that you are fascinated by. You can also talk about an actor, an actress. You can talk about a, I don't know how I listed, pretty much all persons and teams. We can talk about political groups if you wanted to, if you're talking about the individuals within them. So persons is something that we can do. Do we have any questions about people? Okay. Let's talk about places. Right? What are places?
Destination.
Yeah, destinations. Okay? So think back. And these are different ways that we can look at places. Places can be somewhere that you have maybe traveled to, that you've gone on vacation to. Maybe and so it doesn't necessarily have to be a country. You could do it on a city. You can do it on a particular state that you've traveled to. You can also talk about specific locations that you've traveled to. A place could be somewhere like Santa Monica College, Magic Mountain, Not Scary Farm. We can do it as the Santa Monica Pier, the Museum of Tolerance. There are a gajillion places that I'm sure that you've been or that you maybe even love going to. Is there any places that you go to all the time that you love? You have a favorite bookstore? Let's hear about it. This could be a place. You can also get historic, if you would like. You know that I love it when you talk about places that your family comes from or where your heritage is or where your background is. So you can talk about those places of origin if you would like to. You can also talk about dream places. Is there somewhere that you've always dreamed about going or visiting? This would be a really fun time to explore that and look at these places and communicate information about them to all of us. So think about places. Places you go, places you've been, places you want to be. Objects, as we know from visual aids, are anything that is tangible, right? Animals are considered objects for the purpose of description and how they are organized. So that's where that would fall into place. Again, you don't want to talk about your personal animal because this is no longer a personal speech, but instead a speech about something that is very much outside of you. So you can talk, if you have a Cocker Spaniel and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to talk about my Cocker Spaniel so badly, don't talk to me about your Cocker Spaniel or my former Cocker Spaniel, Puppy Chulo. I will tell you all about Puppy Chulo on another day. He's just the best dog ever, so remind me on Thursday. But instead, talk about the breed of Cocker Spaniels. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Could you include that I myself have a Cocker Spaniel?
Excellent question. Here's the deal. Although this speech isn't about you, or let's say, like, you wouldn't give a speech on your grandfather. But if you wanted to use your personal experiences within your speech as support, it is always encouraged because then we get to see you, we get to know your personality, we get to hear commentary from an expert, it builds your credibility, and goodness gracious, who doesn't love hearing a personal story? Like right now, how much are you dying to hear about Puppy Chulo? Right? Because it's fun to hear those personal stories from our friends. If you've traveled to a place, it wouldn't serve us nearly as well. You can, of course, give us information and be like, this is this place, and you can give your credibility that you've been there before. Then you can give like a statement from, I don't know, Four Doors or some other travel that talks about this place, but you can say, when I was there, right? And that can be your personal example. So you can always add in your own detail and commentary with your relationship to the topic. All right. So objects, anything that's tangible. And we all know that we have a bajillion things if you look around us. Your cell phone, right? technology? Or is there anything that you use on a daily basis that you're like, this is fascinating, this is interesting? Or is there a technology that's like coming out that you're like, oh wow, I've never thought about this before, right? That you want to tell all of us about. I had a student one semester who was so passionate about his shoe line that he was creating. Shoes, absolutely. If there is a car that you are in love with, I've had people do many an object like a car, some kind of vehicle transportation that they did a description on. So think about objects that we have all around us, things that are useful, things that we use, or things that we're even passionate about in that way. Any questions about objects? Okay. What about an event? An event is anything that has happened, is happening, or is going to. Okay, good. These are events. We have events that are happening all around us. If you wanted to, let's think about happened. We can talk about historical events that have happened over time. And so you can talk about, today I'm going to talk about D-Day. I'm going to talk about the Tet Offensive. I'm going to talk about 9/11. I'm going to talk about the Holocaust. Excellent. These are events, if you wanted to talk about historical events. We can also look at events that are happening. Many of you may be involved in mini cultural groups outside of school or campus. So let's say we're involved in campus. Maybe we want to talk about an event that's happening on campus, right? So coming up is on LMU's or campus, or in downtown LA this past week as well, they did something called the Slut Walk. Anybody hear about the Slut Walk? Okay, so the Slut Walk, right? This is a event that happens. Any type of dynamic protest that happens, we could talk about. There's a scholarship event coming up that you may want to inform us about. If you're in the Adelante program and you attend the Mujeres events, you can talk about what they are and what their purpose is. We can also talk about anything that's happening in your own small personal groups. So, are you by chance in a particular religion that celebrates maybe a holiday that we don't know about? Today I'm going to tell you about Ramadan. I'm going to tell you about what a 16 or a 15 means. I'm going to tell you about Dia de los Muertos, right? I'm going to tell you about Day of the Dead. So you can do all of these different events that you maybe participate in or perchance have been a part of or think that are really fun and interesting. I had a student like 2 semesters ago, I think. She was part of a Swedish mafia. What? No. Not in the Swedish mafia, but yes, we could talk about the Swedish mafia if we wanted to. That would be where the persons, right? Sweden, place.
Event would be something that they did.
Something that they did, right? Like the Swedish massacre of 2008. I don't know. There wasn't one. But I'm making this up. Don't propagate that. The idea here, though, is that her small school put on a fair every year. And so this Swedish fair that they did is what the event that she talked about. I had a student who was from India in my class at Moore Park, and they had India Days up in the Simi Valley area. So she did her speech or presentation on that. So fun. Great events. Do you go to any events every year? Y'all go to Coachella or something else? This would be a great place to use it. Go to the LA Fair. Hey, get in on that. You have a million and one different events that I'm sure you've been to or you would like to talk about. The last thing is a concept. So a concept is what? What happened? An idea, absolutely, a philosophy, an idea, a theory. So a concept, if we wanted to, is we could talk about like any type of ism. So we could talk about like Dadaism or Buddhism or postmodernism, atheism. Sure. You could also talk about scientific concepts if you wanted to. Like I said before, black holes, earthquakes, lightning. We could talk about string theory. I saw something on that one time. Go to each of your disciplines, see what concepts or theories exist there. Is there a phenomenon that you would like to talk about? This would be an excellent way to get these ideas out there. Anybody have any ideas or questions about concepts? All right. Does everybody see some examples of what you could do? And does anybody have an idea after going through this type of brainstorming of what you could do for your own speech? Is anybody like, I have no clue what I have nothing. Okay. You have a job though, right? Where you work?
I work with a hairstylist.
Fascinating.
I don't like that though. I just work with
Do you ideally want to do your own hairstyling? Is that where you ideally would you like to do your own hairstyle?
No. He does my hair sometimes, but I just don't like working with him.
Okay, don't like working with hair. This is why we do things in our youth, right? Internships, jobs, figure out, gosh, I don't want to do that when I grow up. Moving along. I had 5 internships in college. I don't do one of those things. You know why? I hate it. Yeah, I realized I don't like any of those things. So that was easy. Find out what you like before you spend the money on doing it. Internships are important. It's rough these days. Back in the day, it was like nobody was doing that. So it was like totally ahead of the game. Now it's like people are getting paid for it, gotta compete. Rough go, kids. Leave that there. I don't even want it. I'm just waiting for the difference. Thank you. Excellent. There's free calendars in that box there. If you all want 2015-16 calendar. Not now. After. All right. If you don't have any idea, let's talk a little bit after. We can maybe generate some things for you. In the meantime, let's go back to our piece of paper. Actually, let's not eat yet.
I have a question that I forgot to ask. So what if someone else has a topic similar to yours? Are we still allowed to present it, or are you just it's
Yes.
going to be like first come?
Like always, you are your own entity. I only evaluate you on you. If we hear that message 6 times, how lucky are we? But yours is your own thing. You're going to do it how you do it. You're going to do it with your personality. You're going to do it with your organizational style, with your information. So if you all have the same topic, that's fine. That's something clearly that you love, that you're passionate about, that you want to talk about, and I want to give you that platform to do so, and know that when I evaluate you, even if you're doing something similar to that other person, like I always say, this is about your experience there, and that's what it's compared to, is yours. You are the marker of your own
New story.
story. Sure. Yeah, good. All right. Sound good? All right. How many of you have been in Disneyland? By a show of hands, these classrooms? Okay, great. Almost everyone. If you've been to Disneyland, you can participate a little bit in said activity that I'm going to do here. In English, we do this really fun thing called webbing. You ever hear about it? The first thing that comes to your mind when you think about Disneyland is what you're going to spurt out. No, don't repeat it. I'm going to go in a line. We'll go down like this and then come back. If you haven't been to Disneyland, just say skip. No big deal. Go.
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey. Next. Happy. Next. Hot. Okay. Yes, good. Good. Disneyland.
Oh.
What do you do there? You're reading lines. Okay, lines. Great. Okay. I don't know if I explained this well. Let's talk about the things that make up Disneyland.
Okay, sure.
Not all of girl. I mean, I get that this is maybe this is the worst place you've ever been in your life. And so this speech may, in fact, be to persuade my audience that Disneyland is the worst place I've been. So let's go back, and if we're informing you about Disneyland, we can keep these concepts because they'll work in a case. But let's continue. Keep going.
Animation?
Is there animation at Disneyland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where?
I mean the
World
movie.
of Color.
What?
I mean the movie they made.
What movie?
The movies.
The movies that, oh, but she's talking particularly Disney.
Let's talk about Disneyland as a place.
It kind of does. I mean,
Is that Disneyland?
No.
Oh, good. So we're all starting to learn. Go ahead.
The theater.
The which
The theater.
The theater. That one on Main Street. Okay, next.
Can I say family or wanton?
You can say whatever you want. Family.
Space Mountain.
Space Mountain. Okay, good. Usually we have like favorite thing. Why can't we go to Disneyland because of? Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Big pickles.
Pickles. Great. Next. Fun. Next. Adventures. Okay. Can't wait to go to Disneyland because I get to. Perfect. Yes. Anyone? The teacups. Those are fun, huh? All right, next. Characters. Okay, next. Pictures. Okay, next. Thunder Mountain. Okay, next.
overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Right?
Parachute.
Those new passes. What? Escape. Good. Next.
No, he said skip.
Splash Mountain.
You said what?
Skip.
Oh, skip. Go ahead.
Splash Mountain.
Splash Mountain. That's the chat's favorite, right?
World of color.
Mine.
World of color.
World of Color.
Isn't it?
Yeah, Disneyland is World of Color.
But aren't they kind of like the...
They're different. They're different theme parks.
That's why. Oh.
Small world.
Oh, I hate that.
I just saw that World of Color though. It was wonderful. Small World. Okay.
Churros.
How good are those?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes! Pirates are. Okay, next.
Fireworks.
Fireworks! They are fireworks. Teacups. Oh, we already got that one. No, you like another one? That's only right you like. I love that. You're like, I did it and I'm done. Did the chant.
Who was the Bill Tigger?
Tigger, right? Next. Okay, it's colorful. Great. Next. Childhood. All right, team. How many minutes do we have? Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna say parade, fireworks.
Good.
Overrated. The water show.
Isn't that like...
Grad night. All right, now we're on a roll. Now we're on a roll. Just takes a little brainstorming.
Fantastic.
How many minutes do you have to give this speech?
5.
How many topics do you have on the board? 1,000.
So Disney has
How in the world am I going to take everything about Disneyland and everything that I want to talk about and put it into 5 minutes? Well, that's where we come up with an organizational pattern. Well, let's hold on. That's where we get into our organizational pattern. So let's move this back over, if you don't mind, and we'll take a look here. You have 3 different types of organizational patterns. So we need to come up, as we know, for an informative speech. We have that idea of balance, remember. Now that this is a 5-minute speech, I'm going to encourage you all to think about this being between 5 to 6 minutes in length. But knowing that the balance of time is a bit different, that means that you can have between 2 to 5 main points. 5 is stretching it a bit, but you can think that you can fit them all in here, yet it is still very doable. So our 2 to 5 main points, or ways that we are going to describe Disneyland, clearly we have so many here, and we need to narrow that down. So what we do is we come up with these organizational patterns. So we should come up with these organizational patterns. How are we going to organize our main points? Well, chronological, spatial, and topical are going to be the three patterns that each of these topics can fit into. Depending on where yours falls, like, ooh, I have a person, that means I'm going to organize it blank, blank, or blank. So let's look at the types of organizational patterns. If you have a person, an event, or a concept, you will organize your main points chronologically. What does chronological mean? According to a pattern of time, meaning where it starts and maybe where it ends. Let me tell you a little example. If I was watching the True Hollywood Story of Britney Spears, they wouldn't tell me about her true Hollywood story by first describing the middle of her career, then we'll talk about the end of her career, then we'll go and talk about the beginning of her career. Why would this not make sense when talking about an individual? It's out of order. Yes, we know that. But what happens when something's out of order? It loses the point because we may need something that happened first to understand what has happened last. Our brains are very geared towards chronological order. If you think back to even reading a history book, if you were reading your history book about a particular incident or event, it's going to talk about what led up to the war itself, and then the after effects of the war, correct? If we're going to talk even about an event, I'm not going to tell you about the end of the event, the beginning of the event, and then the middle of the event. No, I would typically talk to you about how the event got started and what the concept was, then maybe what happens at the event and things you can do, right? So those would be our two forms to do so. Our brains are geared in this way because we've been learning in this way for so long. You read a storybook, it's like these individuals meet, they fall in love, there's a heroic adventure, and then somehow they live happily ever after. You've been conditioned this way for a long time to read things and watch things in chronological order. When things aren't in chronological order, that's where it gets a bit confusing. Any of you ever seen the movie Memento? Anybody ever seen the movie Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Pulp Fiction, when it came out back in the day, was super popular for two reasons. One, people hated it, or people loved it. People hated it because it was very difficult to understand. There was 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and the reason that it was difficult to understand is because it started at the end, and then it went to the middle, and then it went back to the end, and then it went to the beginning, and then it went to the middle again, and then it went to the end, and then it ended up back at the beginning. And then it went back to the beginning, which was actually the end. And people were like, this was a big new idea in popular cinema, I should say. I mean, people have been doing this out of order, fragmented concept for a long time. Yeah, but it was a real new way. Here's the gig, though. You don't have 5 hours or 2 hours to present this amazing artistic piece. You have 5 minutes. So give us what the masses will most easily follow along and be able to get your information. So if we're talking about a person, again, we should do so in chronological order. If we're giving you an event, talking about the beginning, the middle, the end would be a great way to detail it. The same thing with the concept. Where did the concept originate? How has it managed? What does it look like today? What perchance is going to happen with it for the future?
So let's say like I'm doing a singer.
Mhm.
I would say like where she was born, and when she was born and just like early life and then how she got famous and then like now or something?
Yeah! Right? Because that would make sense.
Yeah.
You wouldn't talk about where she is now and then how she started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Like what she just said in the example you gave earlier, like for early, like when they first started, you could even talk about like what is it when they were little that influenced them to want to do singing or
Sure.
want to do
The early influences, if you want to make that the main point. Absolutely. I think what I should do, though, is go back a step, what I realize. Remember, we have 5 minutes. So, how am I going to get through all that information in 5 minutes? It's really important to narrow our focus. So, turn that camera really quick over here. And let's go back to your homework assignment. All of you are going to have a general purpose. And you can literally write this down word for word. Every speech that is given falls into one of 3 purposes. To persuade, to entertain, or to inform. What do you all think your general purpose for this speech will be? Inform. Stop it. Yes! Okay, perfect. So all you are going to do for this assignment in this first line is write 2 words. To inform. What 2 words are you going to write for your general purpose? To inform. Absolutely. Nothing else. And I guarantee you somebody's going to write a long dissertation. It is general. It is the most broad purpose of this speech. And that is to inform. We look at this and we start to narrow our focus. Now we have a specific purpose. In general, we're going to inform, but specifically, I'd say, what are you going to inform us about? And that's essentially what a central idea is. Remember what this speech is about. To communicate said significance. To get to know you better. Now, to inform us about, insert topic here. So for each of your homeworks, all you are going to do is bring down this idea here. So you will say something like, to inform my audience about, and then you will put your topic here. Does that make sense to you all? What in the world is that topic? Well, is it going to be about a person, a place, an object, a concept, or an event? That's for sure. But if I want to tell you all about, let's say, Kobe Bryant, that could go on for days, months, years. The same idea with, if I said, today I'm going to talk about sports, how long could I talk about that? I could talk about it for a year, every day in class. Maybe we'd get through sports. I doubt it. We probably wouldn't even have enough time to get through everything. So what should I do? I should narrow my focus. And I narrow sports to a specific sport. Like what?
basketball?
Basketball. Now can I tell you all about basketball in 5 minutes?
No.
I probably need to narrow my focus a bit more.
Team.
So I could talk about a particular team if I wanted to. Could I talk about the history of one particular team in 5 minutes? No, I mean, maybe you could, but maybe you couldn't. But how could I narrow and still talk about a team?
A player?
You could talk about a specific player if you wanted to from that team. Now we've narrowed our focus.
How about specific time?
Yes, so I can talk to you about like the 2012 to 2013 Laker basketball team. And now it's a particular season, and now I know what to focus on, and now I can narrow that down. If I want to talk about Kobe Bryant, there are so many things we could talk to you about him. But if I want to focus on him as a basketball player, then that's what I could narrow it down. Then I don't talk about anything with him related to like controversy or his philanthropy or what he does in his personal life. Instead, I concentrate solely on the basketball career of Kobe Bryant. If I'm going to talk to you about Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton, again, huge topics. But if I could just talk to you about the first presidency of Bill Clinton or the political career of Bill Clinton. Now I've narrowed my focus. Does that make sense to y'all? So we can narrow everything down a bit more to be as succinct as possible. The last thing that you do is you work on writing your thesis. And a thesis is a combination of what two things, everybody? Your central idea and main point. So what do we have already? We have our good. So that's all you do. You're going to bring down your central idea. 2, inform my audience about blank. You insert your topic here. I will tell you about, and then we will list between 2 to 5 main points that you are going to tell us about. Sound good? So let's go back then to those main points and the chronological order, if you don't mind. So we're on chronological order, and we know that if you have a person, an event, or a concept, this could be narrowed down, and your main points are going to be in order of time. The next pattern of so we can talk about something like the beginning, the middle, the end, their start, their rise, their fall, their rise again, a la Britney Spears, right? The beginning, the highlight, the low light, the rise again. That makes sense. If you want, one of my most favorite tricky ways to see patterns of organization is to look at a little something we call Wikipedia. I don't encourage anybody to use Wikipedia as its primary source. But what you will notice, if you're wondering, well, what am I going to talk about? What Wikipedia will do, there will typically be a contents box. And if you see, how did they decide to organize Brittany here? Chronologically, right? So we could take it in a chronological order. Or what they also chose to do here was something a little bit different, which we'll get back to in a second. But if you want to look at the contents section, you will more than likely find some good ideas that you can use for your pattern of organization. Because they will always use chronological, spatial, or topical. Because it's an informative device. Does that make sense? The other thing you can use this for is down here at the bottom of a Wikipedia page. One of my favorites, this is going to be a long one, are your sources that you can always go to, because these are valid sources. And there's 278 outside sources about Britney Spears. So just when you think, there's no topics, I bet there are. Here's Wikipedia. All right. That being said, let's look at spatial organization. Spatial organization has to do with literally space, or as we call it, direction. This means that we can do something like north to south, top to bottom, east to west, around in a circle. Direction is what spatial organization means. If you have an object or a place, this is best organized spatially. So you can write that down on your paper. If you have a place or an object, it's best described spatially. Let's take a look at what I mean. If I am talking about a place like Disneyland, for example, you go to Disneyland and with your ticket they hand you something else. What do they hand you? A map. Why do they hand you a map? So you don't get lost, because if your audience gets lost, remember, changing the channel, not going, I'm angry at the mouse, like the whole thing happened, you do not want to get angry. So the same thing happens in your audience, and spatial organization is great for a specific place. Imagine if you went to the mall and you're like, where's that store? What do you look at?
Directory.
A directory or a map. If you are trying to program, if there's a button blinking in your car, you're like, crap, what do you look at? The manual, right? The manual usually has a front page that's like, these are all the things, and then you go to like the other thing, it has like a picture on it, right? You're trying to put together a toy. So I think if you look at the manual has a what on the front?
Instructions.
Directions, but it usually has a picture. Okay, good. This is why places and objects work so well spatially organized. I have 500 topics that I can talk about in Disneyland, but I could also break Disneyland down spatially. And they do so for you every time you go there already. They give you Main Street, they give you Tomorrowland, they give you Toontown and Fantasyland, and then they give you Adventureland and Frontierland. So, I could do my main points. Tomorrow, and this would be Fantasy and Toontown, and I could do Frontier, thank you, and Adventure, right? And these could be my main points. To inform you about Disneyland, I will today take you on an adventure, starting with Main Street. We'll work our way over to Tomorrowland. We'll then make our way up to Toontown and Fantasyland, and we'll finally end up in Adventureland and Frontierland. Does this make sense to you? What would I talk about inside each of those main points?
A specific attraction.
So if we look at this, we start to see all the different things we have. We have like Splash Mountain and Mickey, and fireworks, and et cetera, et cetera. But what we could do is we could narrow each of those things and still be able to talk about them, but we talk about them with an overall topic in mind, right? So on Main Street, I'm going to tell you about the food you can find there, the characters you can find there, and the attractions you can find there, like that theater. What do you think I talked to you about with Tomorrowland? The food, what? Then the characters you can find there, and the attractions. Oh my gosh, I can list them. Am I going to have the time to list all of them?
No.
No, but I can list at least the specifics or the highlights, or even your favorite ones. That's what you choose. A student of mine once did the Las Vegas Strip to inform our audience about the Las Vegas Strip. It is a place, thus they did it spatially. So first we're going to start at the south side of the strip, we'll move to the middle of the strip, and I'll finally tell you about the north end of the strip. And within each of those he had subpoints, and those subpoints were hotels you can find there, clubs, and restaurants. Hotels, clubs, restaurants. Hotels, clubs, restaurants. Did you do all of them? No, there's no time to do all of them, but he did the specific ones that we could, and this was spatially organized. Does that make sense? And if you ever been online and designed your own car, this was one of my favorite things to do before I bought my first car, which was a Toyota Prius. Back in 2009, finally bought my own first car. I was very excited about it. New car. Here it is. Spatially organized. Because if you've ever gone online and designed something, clearly this is a car. That's me. Okay? If it's an object, how do they have you design a car when you go to the website? Well, they first have you design the shape in the outside. Like this is what you can get. These are the colors that it comes in. This is the version that it is. This is the sunroof option that they have. This is the spoiler you can add onto the back. Then they move into the interiors, right? The exterior, the interior. And in the interior, they talk to you about the seating and the dash and the colors that you can use again, etc. And then they go and they talk to you about designing your engine. And so that's the inside, right? So now we've done spatial organization. I'll first talk to you about a Toyota Prius 3 edition by talking about the exterior, the interior, and finally the engine and motor. The student who did the shoe did the exact same thing. Says I'm going to talk to you about the exteriors of this shoe, then I'll talk to you about the inside of the shoe, and then I'm going to talk to you finally about what the sole of this shoe is made of. And that was an easy way to walk us through a particular object. Does that make sense to y'all? So whether you have a space, these are how it would be organized, right? Like running in a circle. The last type of organizational pattern that it says there on your paper is what? Topical organization. Topical organization gets used often as what we call a catch-all. Like, I don't know what to do, so I'll just do topical. But topical, although it's easy, it may not be the most effective way to organize. Topical organization works for all of your categories. Thank you. I was like, what's that word? For all of your categories. If you have a person, a place, an object, an event, or a concept, you can organize it topically. What is topically? Well, it's what you've been doing thus far. If you said, for you to get to know me better, I'm going to talk about where I was born, then my experiences in my youth, then my experiences in high school, and finally I'll talk to you about my experience post or in college. And what I hope to do in the future, that is a chronological. But each of you didn't get to know us better that way. How'd you get to know us? By coming up with different topics, aka topical approval, that you're going to explain. So that means that you use something like, for us to get to know you, you'll tell us about your family, your job, and some things you'd like to do on weekends. You can still do things like to inform you about, and I hate to go back to this example because it's so ridiculous, but now that I've used it, we're on it. If I went back to this Britney Spears Wikipedia, right, you're going to see that this is done here chronologically, but it's done topically, correct? That they've broken it down by particular topics. So to inform you about the basketball career of Kobe Bryant, I could tell you about his high school, his time with the Lakers with Shaq, and his time with the Lakers post-Shaq. That could be chronological. But I could also inform you about Kobe Bryant, period, by talking to you about his basketball career with the Lakers, telling you a little bit about the philanthropy that he does, and then finally telling you a bit about the Kobe Bryant School for Basketball. Does that make sense? I'm going today to inform you about Disneyland. I'll tell you about some of the attractions you can see, some of the parades and special shows that they have, and finally some of the great restaurants you can visit. Although it isn't organized in spatial order, how we're used to, we're still getting particular topics out of it, which is fine to do. So should you want to do topical organization, this is also an option. When you compose your homework assignment, the last question that's asked here on the board, if you don't mind turning the camera real quick, is your organizational pattern that is used. Did you use chronological? Did you use spatial? Or did you use topical? Do you think that each of you would be able to identify and understand which pattern of organization you use?
Yes.
Yes. Can somebody say no?
No.
Okay. No. Where?
You said, can someone say this?
Oh, yes, thank you for saying the words. Can somebody say no if they don't understand? Sorry. Thank you. See? Gotta be quick. Everybody gets it?
Yeah.
What? Because you all are what?
Awesome.
That's right, you are. All right, hold on. Now let's talk about this real quick. What you need, so we've talked about this. All of you are going to write your general purpose. Everybody's general purpose in this class is 2 words. You're going to write 2 words down. What are they?
To inform.
Amazing. Then you're going to write a specific purpose. And it is going to be to inform my audience about your topic, your narrowed down topic. And then your thesis statement. All we do is bring that central idea down and we add on our main points. And your main points that are organized either chronologically, spatially, or topically. And you put them in those orders. You get to create the category. So don't pack up. I will take my minute. You get to create the categories of your main points. So like you said, like what they did in their background, great. If that's what you want to call it, what they did in their background, awesome. If you want to talk about it as their life before basketball or their upbringing or their childhood or their influences, you get to create the names, of course, of your main points. Like I said, Wikipedia is a great tool because of their organizational patterns on the side. So feel free to explore how they are organizing and see if that can give you some guidance if you can't come up with something as well. When is this due? Tomorrow by noon. Fantastic. So you'll be turning this in. And where would you turn it in at?
Companion.
Oh my goodness.